Hey there, I'm Phoebe, and today I'm going to teach you about colors. Obviously, we all want to put down colors like glowish and make our paintings look magical. Or maybe you prefer a more realistic approach, less colorful, more neutral and natural looking. Either way, the trick to choosing the right colors all comes down to, well, understanding them. While what colors look good can be considered subjective to some extent, there's also color theory and just what naturally pleases the eye to look at. I won't go into too much detail over the color wheel, since there are already a million tutorials that go over that. Instead, I'll teach you some coloring tricks that work the best when it comes to digital art. The first tip I have is one you may have seen before, but the tip is to make your colors look similar. Not exact, but similar enough to be in harmony with one another. Put all of the colors down that you're thinking of using, then think of what type of tone you'd like your piece to have. Then, what color represents that tone? Whichever color you think of, drop it down on the colors you've chosen and lower the opacity. Feel free to use complementary colors or to look up color palettes online if you're stuck. Now, I know I said I wouldn't go over too much detail when it comes to the color wheel, but here's a quick trick for tip number 2. Also, just try saying that 5 times fast. Quick trick for tip number 2. Quick trick for tip... Try to avoid the outside of the color block. Stick to the middle, and when you're looking for a shadow or highlight color, change the hue as well as the shade. Here's what I mean. This can keep things looking much more interesting. For tip number 3, don't get too complicated too quickly. Start with your basic colors, then start adding things like the blush or lip color. If you don't plan your colors well enough, it's super easy for things to start looking muddy. For tip number 4, use the same color in multiple spots. Once you get your basic colors and rendering done, adding the same color to multiple spots, hair color to the shadows, skin color to the hair, etc., can make things look much more interesting to look at. Using similar colors and the same color in multiple spots can add a layer of cohesion to your piece that you may not otherwise get. When you just put down colors willy-nilly, it starts to look a little random and weird. Though if that's the vibe you're going for, then that works. Tip number 5 is kind of a reference back to my last video. Use all of the tools that digital art provides you. Learning your art program can make things so much easier. If you're not sure about a color, for example blush, add a new layer down and put a color that you're thinking of using. If it doesn't look exactly right, open up the hue and saturation window to change it around until you like it. Learn what different adjustment layers do to the colors and lighting of your piece. Don't be afraid to experiment with it. If you notice your colors looking a bit dull, try adding an overlay layer to make things pop. Another trick for dull colors is to open up the hue and saturation window again and up the saturation until you like it, or change the brightness or the hue, or just play around with the adjustment layers. Adding a gradient on top can also make things a little more interesting as well. Tip number 6 is a bit of a bonus. When my piece is close to done, I like to put all of my layers into one group and duplicate that group. I hide one of the groups and merge all of the other. I know that might sound a little complicated, but basically I'm just making sure I have a backup because I don't trust myself to, make it all pretty. But once my piece is in a single layer, I do something you've probably heard of before. First, I sharpen the image. Then I add chromatic aberration. Then I add a grain overlay. It basically finishes the piece for me. Art really is ultimately subjective. Colors are... Well, like I said, there are colors that just naturally look nice to the eyes, but honestly, just play around with what you like. Art is about experimentation and finding what you actually enjoy. Whether you enjoy looking at the finished piece or just making the art in general. It's really all about having fun. Once you start to think too much about it, it takes the fun out of it, and then art is no longer something you do for pleasure. It's something you do because you feel like you have to master it. And once you master something, well, honestly, mastering something is subjective anyways. I guess maybe not when it comes to like brain surgery or something, but when it comes to a creative skill, mastering it is pretty subjective. But once you yourself get to that point of thinking, oh, I've mastered this, it's like, what's the point of doing it anymore? It's just... There's no learning new things. It's just perfection, and that's boring. So basically, I guess what I'm saying is, don't strive to be perfect, just strive to learn and to get better, because ultimately that's all we can really do. But in any case, thank you for watching this video, and I hope you got some sort of help out of it. I'm not sure how often I'll be posting on YouTube, but I plan on posting many tutorials on Instagram, so follow me on there if you'd like to. Thanks for staying till the end, and I hope the rest of your day is as lovely as you are.